There is nothing like that feeling of not knowing where to start with your content creation, sitting, staring at that blank screen, just waiting for inspiration to come and smack you in the face. Or even the opposite of this, having too much to do and feeling paralyzed with inaction because you don't know what to do next. Content overwhelm, my friends, is real, but it is avoidable. In today's episode, I'm helping you strip back the chaos and bring a little clarity and simplicity to your world and your content process. I'll help you identify your sources of overwhelm, hello, unrealistic expectations, and show you how to create content that really aligns with your strengths so that you can make overwhelm a thing of the past. But note, this is not a one size fits all approach. You know that I'm not about the shoulds. So you'll be able to take what you need from this episode and implement one small change today. Welcome to the Powerful Content Podcast, your go-to source for content creation, strategy, and business inspiration. I'm your host, Mel Daniels, content strategist, coach, and speaker, empowering women across the globe to grow their business with powerful content that connects, nurtures, and converts. So if you're ready to create standout content that gets you noticed and remembered, or build an aligned audience who love you and are ready to buy from you, you're in the right place. I believe that content has the power to connect us all. It's up to you how you use it. Listen in for genuine and insightful chats with guests, as well as practical tools and strategies from me. It's so lovely to have you here. Let's dive into the show. I acknowledge the Wongal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the country that I am recording from today. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nation people listening today. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to episode 160 of the Powerful Content Podcast. Thanks so much for being here with me today. I truly appreciate you spending time with me in your ears, and especially so today because just before I hit record, I realized something super special, that it's been 3 years since I dropped my very first episode of the Powerful Content Podcast. Now, I've only ever missed releasing an episode once, I think, which I'm super proud of. But I wanted to give a huge shout out to all of my lovely, loyal listeners who have been with me since day one. I see you, and I thank you so much for your support. I'm really grateful to have you in my life. So thank you. Okay, so today I wanted to talk to you about something that so many people feel when it comes to content, but is often not spoken about at all. Well, at least not in a way that really considers you as a human being. And that is content overwhelm, without a doubt. I know that this is one of the biggest challenges for small business owners, especially those who want to do good and make more impact in a more human-centered way. Now, content is such a huge part of how we increase our reach and our impact and become known to more people and then begin to be able to help more people. And this is the underlying reason that we started our business in the first place, right? So, whilst I'm not a mindset expert, I do understand the impact of content overwhelm on you and your business because I've been there myself. So, the aim of this episode is really to first acknowledge that content overwhelm is a very real thing. And secondly, to give you some ideas on how you can decrease it. But note here that I did not say how you should be approaching content creation, but rather I want to help you identify what may be causing you to feel overwhelmed and give you some possible solutions that you could try and implement depending on what feels right for you. So the first question is, what actually causes content overwhelm? Why are you even feeling this way? Now, in my book, The Power of Content, I talk about one of the reasons content feels so hard, and that's because you're taught content marketing should, air quotes, be done in a certain way. And I know from personal experience that this mainstream way of ticking the boxes and spamming audiences and hard selling feels totally misaligned for so many of us. On top of this, there's the pressure that we know that content is such an important part of our business success. So we feel like we have to do it and have to do it a certain way. And then all of these things manifest in trying to do hashtag all the things without a clear strategy. When you're caught up in content consumption from numerous different sources, you really jump straight into the doing without thinking about that bigger picture. The more it doesn't work for you, the more things you do, and the more complicated things get. And before you know it, you're in so many places and doing so many different individual content related things that you feel like you're drowning and getting nowhere. And when we're in this state of consumption rather than strategic creation, taking on too much advice from different sources really leaves you feeling stuck and less than, because you're thinking about the shoulds. You should be on Pinterest. You should be creating reels. You should be using LinkedIn more. You should have a podcast. It is absolutely endless. So it's understandable that it all becomes overwhelming. And then lastly, overcomplicating your content process instead of focusing on that minimum viable content, which means that we're now stuck in a cycle of doing hashtag all the things without that clear strategy. And so the overwhelm continues to mount and you become stuck in this endless cycle of feeling bad about what you're doing and overwhelmed with what you think you should be doing. But sometimes it's not just about the logistics of your content, it's about the emotional overwhelm and the self doubt as well, right? It's that inner mean girl whispering to you that your content isn't good enough, that no one sees it anyway and no one cares. And believe me, even as someone who knows and loves content, this is something that I feel too. What I love to do in these moments is instead of feeling like I have to create for everyone, I just think about that one person who needs to hear from me today, that one person who needs what I offer, who I know could actually turn their business or their life around simply because they get to work with me. And at the end of the day, content creation should work for you, not be another task that drains your energy or that you have to tick off your list. And that's where ditching the shoulds and not doing hashtag all the things is going to work in your favor. But I totally understand that ditching the shoulds is hard. When we're sold that a certain way of creating content or publishing on a certain platform will bring in more people and sales, it's really hard to ignore. It's hard to ignore that FOMO. Content shoulds come from everywhere. They come at us from everywhere. And so it's no wonder that we are so overwhelmed. They come from social media trends. They come from marketing gurus, business coaches, algorithm changes, and comparisonitis. We see someone else's success and think, I should be doing that too. And the result of this is that we feel like we need to be everywhere. We need to do more. We need to follow a rigid formula, even when it doesn't feel right. And then this leads to exhaustion, inconsistency, and second guessing everything we create. So breaking free from those content shoulds is harder than me saying to you, just do it. Just don't. Just do it. That's not helpful. And it becomes another should that you should be doing. So here's some ideas for you. Firstly, notice where the should is showing up in your content process. Are you forcing yourself to write long captions when you'd rather talk on video? Are you feeling guilty for not posting daily because someone said that you had to? Are you creating content from a place of pressure rather than inspiration? And secondly, ask yourself, what do I actually enjoy creating? And this is so super important. There is no doubt that content is far more sustainable for you to create when it plays to your strengths, not someone else's strengths, your strengths. And if you want to know what your strengths are when it comes to content creation, go and check out my super quick quiz to unlock your content creator archetype. So, for example, if writing feels like a chore for you, but talking feels easy, you could start with voice notes and get AI to transcribe them for you instead. If showing up on video drains you, you could focus on podcast or blogging instead. There's always an alternative way that can maintain or increase your visibility, but still feel easy and doable for you. The third thing is give yourself permission to experiment. And this is so important. We get kind of locked into these ideas that we have to do things a certain way. Because when you're caught up in the shoulds, you are focusing on doing something a certain step-by-step way, following a formula that may not align with you and your business. There is absolutely no one-size-fits-all approach to content. So Please feel free to try different things out. Challenge yourself, yes, but don't push. That's where the misalignment and overwhelm comes into play. To try different formats, different frequencies, different styles, and that will really help you discover what feels effortless and aligned. Make sure you stick with it long enough to make a difference to your content. But if you're not feeling it, consider this your permission to get rid of it. Let it go. And this then really ties back to that concept of minimum viable content because your minimum viable content is unique to you. It's about creating just enough to move your business forward in a way that works with your time, your energy, and resources. It's about stepping away from the shoulds and focusing on what actually feels right for you. Because when you stop forcing yourself to create in ways that don't align with who you are, content creation, believe it or not, becomes so much easier, more enjoyable, and more effective too. So now we know all the different ways that content can actually overwhelm us. How do we create that really simple, effective content workflow that feels really easy and aligned? Well, you've heard me talk about the 4P framework before, which helps you to prepare, set a plan, produce your content, and then put a process around it, all in a way that's really aligned with your strengths. And if you want to know more about what your strengths are, once again, make sure that you've done the content creator archetype quiz. It'll just take a couple of minutes and it will save you a lifetime of overwhelm, trust me. I've spoken about the elements of the 4P framework in previous episodes, but just as a super quick refresh for you, prepare is about understanding all the things that you could talk about so that you can pull out themes and remove that content decision fatigue. Because when we can remove the decision fatigue, we can start to remove the overwhelm. The second P is plan. And this is about setting a realistic content objective based on your capacity, your time, energy, and resources, and do it in a way that aligns with your strengths at the same time. So that means not all content plans look the same. There is no perfect way to plan, only the right way for you. The third P is produce, and this is focusing on your minimum viable content. Start with the easiest, most impactful content for you to create. And I'll be speaking about minimum viable content in an upcoming episode in more depth. So make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss that one. I want you to ask yourself here, what's the absolute bottom line minimum content that you could create that still feels valuable for your audience, but aligned with your time, energy, and resources? And start there. And then the fourth P is process. And that's about having a system in place for organizing your ideas, your drafts, and publishing. And once again, this looks different for everyone. There are no shoulds here that you should be using a certain system or a certain software. It's up to you. And when you break all of this down into small, doable steps, content creation becomes easier and more sustainable, reducing your overwhelm without compromising your visibility. So what does this look like in my business and the business owners I work with? It's about implementing systems to stay organized and on top of things. And I've had a couple of experts on systems and systemizing on the podcast in the past, so I'll pop the links to these in the show notes. But firstly, systems don't necessarily mean tech solutions. It could include tech, but it really refers to that consistent, repeatable way of doing something with the idea of reducing the time, energy, and resources that it takes you to achieve your desired outcome. So for me, it's using a project management tool like Asana or Notion. Here I can track my daily tasks, have spreadsheets for my content calendars and tracking, plus standard operating procedures to document the steps so that myself and my team know exactly what to do. And it means that anyone can jump in and complete a task simply because it's documented. Even when it was just me, these documents helped me stay on track and become far more efficient. But anyone, even you, can implement a system today to reduce your content overwhelm. Keep it super simple. Start with a basic content calendar. Whatever floats your boat. You don't need to be creating boards on Trello or databases in Notion. Use whatever your brain likes to use. Create a simple, standard operating procedure, voice recorded if it feels easier than writing down every step, and track your performance, but don't obsess over the metrics. The act of tracking will soon help you see patterns. Simply pick one tool and start small. Start somewhere. Now, recently I had 2 Christmas casual jobs, which left me time poor and mentally poor as well, can I say. I'm still working both of them as I love them so much. But obviously, when I was in the thick of Christmas trading, content for my business seemed so ridiculously overwhelming. And I'll be sharing more about this experience in an upcoming episode. But creating content felt like too much. So the only option to stay sane and keep the family ticking along and my business ticking along was to simplify. So going back to basics, choosing my minimum viable content and releasing the guilt. And that was the hard bit, but releasing the guilt around doing this meant that I was still able to continue with my visibility for my business, but without it taking up too much of my precious time. So, if you're feeling guilt or overwhelm or just plain exhausted from listening to all the shoulds out there, and I do not blame you, then there's a few questions that you can reflect on now or take them offline later and perhaps journal on. The first is, what is one belief I hold about content creation that might be contributing to my overwhelm? Secondly, where am I currently overcomplicating my content process? We all do it. And how can I simplify it? And the last question is, how would my content feel different if I allowed it to be easier? Okay, so to wrap up today's episode, overwhelm happens when content creation feels misaligned or lacks intention. A simple workflow in line with your strengths can make content creation easier to manage, and prioritizing and using the right tools can bring clarity and consistency. So make sure that you head down to the show notes to find the link to the quiz to unlock your content strengths and help you reduce your content overwhelm. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, as in a couple of episodes, I'll be talking about how to get more mileage from the content that you already have, so you're not stuck in that endless cycle of always creating from scratch, and how to uncover your minimum viable content to decrease your overwhelm and still remain visible. Talk soon. Thanks so much for listening. That's it for another week. To get more powerful content in your life, make sure you're following along on socials. My handle is @meldbusiness. And just in case you're wondering, the groovy music for this podcast was created by Just Here on SoundCloud. I'd also be super grateful if you took a moment to rate and review this podcast so more amazing women like you can experience the power of content. And if you're like, hell Mel, stop talking, I'm ready to work with you now, here's how we can work some powerful content magic together. Firstly, come and join the Content Effect, my membership inspiring women with service-based businesses to ditch the content chaos and start creating stand-out content that gets you noticed and makes sales. You can join us by using the link in the show notes or just Google the Content Effect. The second way we can work together is via my one-on-one packages. We can create a sustainable content strategy or start to build out your client journey. It's up to you. Hop on over to meldbusinessservices.com.au/services to find out more. Until next time, have a beautiful week and embrace the power of your content.